Welcome back everybody to the second part of my rigid body physics tutorial. Today we're going to be working on setting up the scene for material and a little bit of lighting, and then we're going to render it out. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and change the lamp that we have set to sun, and that way it's a little bit easier to see in the rendered view. I'm pressing 1 on the numpad and Z. Then I'm going to click on one of these cubes here to set it as an active object. And then I'm going to hit B for box select, and I'm going to select all of the boxes here. Now I'm going to click New in the Materials tab, and I'm going to go ahead and I'll pick a glass material. Now, if you look in the render view, you notice that the only one that's actually changed is the active object. So if you come over here to this little down arrow and click Copy Material to Others, it will then copy the material from that active object to all selected objects. Just like that. And that's about the hardest thing we're going to do today. I'm going to go ahead and change the color. That doesn't look too bad. And I'm going to change the ORI to 1.334 or 333. It's close enough. And that just changes the index of refraction. We'll probably go into more detail about that later, but that's just basically how the light is going to pass through the object in basically its clarity. So the next thing we're going to do is go back into object mode, and I'm going to hit tab on the plane to bring it into edit mode, and then I'm going to press control tab to select mode on your vertices, edges, or faces, and I'm going to click each one of these. Actually, let's go ahead and go to the camera first. By pressing 0 on the numpad, that will put you in camera view, this box right here, and then if you hit Shift F, you can control it by using the ASD keys. Think of it as kind of like a first-person shooter. That's not too bad. Now that I have done that, I'm going to press E to extrude these up, and then middle mouse click to extrude them on the Z axis. Now I'm going to press A twice to deselect and then select all of them. And I'm going to do this kind of the lazy way of unwrapping, but I'm going to press W, and I'm going to project from view, because we know this is the view that we're going to be looking at in the camera. So that'll be about perfect. I'm going to go back into a rendered mode by hitting Shift Z, and then we're going to exit edit mode so that that goes away. The unwrapping is actually not really important on a basic material. If you were going to be doing materials with patterns and stuff like that, you'd want to really unwrap it. But for this, it's not that big of a deal, since I'm just using a standard material. For this, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, so let's try a few things out and see what they look like. Maybe a little green with the anisotropic here. Yeah, that's kind of ugly. Let's lighten it up a little bit. I don't know. People that like green as their favorite color, they're weirdos to me. Let's go ahead and change the rotation of anisotropic a little bit. That's not too bad. So now we're going to go ahead and click on our cone, and we're going to set the material on our cone. And this is pretty simple. And like I say, set it any way you guys want. There's absolutely no reason to follow what I'm doing. I'd actually prefer that you didn't. I'm going to use the principal BSDF, and I'm going to change the transmission all the way to 100 to make it clear. And I'm going to bring open another tab so I can kind of see what I'm working with here. And I think I'm going to maybe add a subsurf to smooth that out. I don't particularly want to smooth it. I'll hit tab real quick and add a couple of quick loop cuts by hitting Control R, which you cannot do. I don't know why I said that. Nah, we'll just leave it like that. It's good enough. It's actually quite ugly. Yeah, I like it. I know, it doesn't make sense. I forgot to clarify why you can't actually do loop cuts on it, because these are full of tries right here. So in order to do loop cuts, you have to have no ingons and no tries. You have to have 4 vertices to make a rectangle. I don't know why I actually tried that. That was quite silly of me. I'm going to go ahead and change the base color to purple and pink. Yeah, We'll do kind of a yellow. And that is actually almost everything. We're going to just add some quick lights. I'm just going to add a plane, and I'm going to make this an area light. I'm going to zoom out here and go into camera view so we know exactly where our area lights are. And I'm just going to move it into a position that I like. I mean, like I say, you really just need to play with it a little bit. We're going to scale it up and maybe move it back here. We're going to add a new material, emissions, kind of like enunciation, something I don't know how to do most days. And we're going to crank that up. Maybe a little bit more. Alright, that actually is probably, it's a little dark. We'll duplicate this by pressing Shift D to duplicate it. And bring it over here. I'm going to rotate it on the Z axis. I'm going to bring it back so it's pointing a little bit more forward and then up so it's out of our camera view. When it comes to lighting, you'll hear a lot of different things. I always tell people, do what you feel looks good. If you can look at it and say, oh yeah, that looks good, then you're good to go. If it looks too dark, take the time to make it right. Lighting is probably one of the most important things you can do to rendering. You can have a perfect model, and if it looks terrible, then it doesn't look very good. So that's actually going to be it for the lighting. I think that's probably pretty suitable. It ain't perfect, but it's practice, and this is a tutorial. So for rendering, I'm going to go ahead and change the scale here to 100%. And you may notice you have a lot of like these little white specks and fireflies right here, and very grainy. And a lot of articles will say things like, go ahead and crank up your sampling up real high. That will kind of help here, but it will not help with these little white specks. When you're using high gloss items, or say like a lot of glass material, it causes a lot of what's called fireflies. The best way to get rid of fireflies, is you're going to have a clamp direct right here under your sampling tab, and a clamp indirect. I usually just change both those values to 1. And if you even notice now, all the little white specks that were here are completely gone. And I'm going to change my device to render on my beautiful CPU or GPU, and you'll notice that the render is much quicker. Now, the way that I usually render out animations is I actually render them out as images. It's just easier if you decide to stop, or for some crazy reason it crashes during rendering, because Blender does crash, believe it or not. You could continue where you left off, but it also does create 250 files. So that's kind of choose your poison there. If you're going to do FFmpeg, you can click on it, go down to encoding, and change the container to MP4. And the reason why is you could actually do any one of these, but a lot of computers don't have the correct codecs. MP4 is the easiest way. Every computer that I've ever seen has. As far as the quality output, I usually will use high quality. It's just, the quality of the image. Anything higher than high quality is so nominal you can't really tell the difference. For encoding speed, this is really going to be the compression of what it encodes at. So a slower encoding speed will compress the file a lot more. I always do real time because space for me isn't a huge issue. I have many terabytes. And that's actually all you really need to do. If you're going to do a file, of course, set your directory where you want to save it. And yeah, that's about it. If you want to have any suggestions or inputs, please let me know. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.